wish I had read more in the month of February, but in the middle of the month I had quite the reading slump due to various mental health issues that I think I might talk a little bit more about in a whisper ramble life update, maybe. But yeah, I have 5 books. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 books to talk about today. So without further ado, let's just get started. So, the first book I read in February, which may not surprise you if you watched my January wrap-up, is The Atlas Paradox. The Atlas Paradox by Olivia Blake. This is the Barnes & Noble special edition. I was gonna get it in paperback, but this was actually cheaper. It was when they had, I bought it in January when they had their 50% off hardcovers for a bunch of hardcover books, and this was one of them, so I bought this in January and read it in February. This is the second book in, I think this series is just called the Atlas 6, right? I don't think it has a different name. But this is book 2 of the 3. So let's just read the synopsis. The synopsis may be a little spoilery. Okay, maybe I'll just leave out one part of it, and chronology. It came out in the beginning of January, which is why I started reading the series, because the final book was already out and I could just binge through the series, which is exactly what I did. So yeah, this is what it looks like. Just sword, the Atlas Complex by all the people. I gave this like a 2 stars. I really didn't. I kind of felt myself like forcing myself to finish this book. It didn't have the same vibes as the first 2. The characters were different, the relationships were different, the ending was certain things that happened, it was just but yeah, I didn't love it. It has kind of a low rating on Goodreads as well, so yeah, I don't know, it's just not the best conclusion to a series, in my opinion. But other than that, let's just read the synopsis to see if, I don't think it's too spoilery. The synopsis of all the books aren't, don't say a whole lot, but okay. Only the extraordinary are chosen. Only the cunning survive. An explosive return to the library leaves the 6 Alexandrians vulnerable to the lethal terms of their recruitment. Old alliances quickly fracture as the new initiates take opposing strategies as to how to deal with the deadly bargain they have so far failed to uphold. Those who remain with the archives wrestle with the ethics of their astronomical abilities, while elsewhere, an unlikely pair from the society cohort partner to influence politics on a global stage. And still, the outside world mobilizes to destroy them while the caretaker himself, Atlas Blakely, may yet succeed with a plan foreseen to have world-ending stakes. It's a race to survive as the 6 society recruits are faced with the question of what they're willing to betray for limitless power, and who will be destroyed along the way. So yeah, I also forgot to mention, as it states in the synopsis, first of all, they're not all in the contained environment anymore, which was kind of a big factor in the dynamics in the first 2 books. They're kind of all over the place. They do eventually kind of come back together, but for a good portion of the book, they are in different places. And it did say in the synopsis briefly, and in the author's note at the end, it does get a little political. It's not crazy, but as it said, 2 of the characters do kind of like team up to try and influence certain politics in the United States, but it's not too heavy. But I know that has been a complaint of some people I saw on Goodreads. That didn't bother me too much. It's kind of everything else that bothered me, but it's okay. I read the series, I got it done, I finished it, and I was able to move on to other things. So with that, I still enjoy All of You, Blake. I've given 3 of the 5 books I've read from her 4 stars, so I will continue to read from her in the future. The ending of this series just wasn't it for me. That's all. Okay, and then next, I read Night Watching by Tracy Sierra. This is a debut author, their first novel. Night Watching like halfway through the book and we're dealing with something completely different. Like the kind of thriller and suspense ends very quickly. And then it's like what happens after, like the aftermath and everything and the consequences. But yeah, I enjoyed it. I will read from this author in the future. But yeah, Night Watching by Tracy Sierra. The next book I read was Midnight on Beacon Street by Emily Ruth Verona. This is another debut work. At the top here it says, "One night, one house, one dead body." This was kind of one of my most anticipated releases of the year. I was really intrigued by the premise and how it would include like 80s and 90s horror movies in this story of like the young babysitter watching the two kids and then the phone rings, like that whole thing, where how the author would put their own spin on it. But let's read the synopsis real quick. So it says, October 1993. When single mom Eleanor Masinski goes out for a much-needed date night, she leaves her two young children, sweet, innocent 6-year-old Ben and precocious, defiant 12-year-old Mira, in the capable hands of their sitter, Amy. The quiet 17-year-old is good at looking after children despite her anxiety disorder. She also loves movies, especially horror flicks. Amy likes their predictability. It calms the panic that threatens to overwhelm her. The evening starts out normally enough, with is stop the clan before it ends the world. So this is a horror novella set in 1920s Alabama. And it kind of, as the synopsis said, is about these KKK members who transform into like actual demons, like the supernatural kind, other than like the actual kind that they are. And Maurice and her two friends hunt them down and kill them. But then they find out there's like a greater threat coming that they have to figure out if they can stop. But I enjoyed this. I gave it 4 stars. I am interested in reading more from this author. I've been interested in A Master of Jinn from by him for a while now, but I wanted to pick up Ring Shout, both because I was interested in it, but I also wanted to see kind of the writing style, because I had heard the writing in A Master of Jinn was a little dense, so I kind of wanted to see maybe a sample of it in here. But I really enjoyed this. It was when I say easy read, I don't mean content-wise. I mean it was like it was good to get through. It was an enjoyable read. It was a little gory. I think I have kind of a higher tolerance